The stars stretched endlessly across the black void, twinkling like distant fires in the silent night. Captain Elias Kane sat in the cockpit of his small ship, the Starling, tapping at the navigation console. The hum of the engines was comforting. Space was quiet, predictable, and honest, unlike the crowded trade hub he had just left behind, where every deal, every word, and every glance carried hidden meaning. Elias had been traveling between human colonies and small alien settlements for months, carrying supplies, repairing ships, and occasionally transporting passengers who could pay a fair price. He was not rich. He did not want to be. For him, flying was freedom. Suddenly, a blip appeared on his scanner, a small weak distress signal from a remote system. Zytheria 9. The signal was barely detectable, flickering in and out. Elias frowned. Zytheria was far from any major human trade route. The planet's surface was known for strange terrain and dangerous storms. Most pilots avoided it entirely, but something about the signal caught his attention. It wasn't just the faint call for help, it was urgency, and someone was in trouble. Without hesitation, Elias adjusted the Starling's course. "Let's see who needs help," he muttered to himself. By the time he entered Zytheria's orbit, the planet was a swirl of glowing cities and jagged terrain. One massive city, bathed in a soft blue light, sprawled across the valley floor. Above it hung an intricate sky bridge, a massive platform connecting the palace to the city. It was magnificent, a marvel of alien engineering, but it trembled under the weight of a storm that raged across the planet. Then Elias saw her. A figure clung desperately to the edge of the sky bridge. The wind tore at her clothing, a flowing gown of shimmering silver that caught flashes of lightning. Her long hair whipped around her face. She reached out trying to grasp a support beam, but the metal shuddered under the storm. She was clearly terrified. Princess? Elias guessed based on her attire and the urgency of the signal. He had read reports about the Zytherian royal family, their elegance, their grace, their importance. Without thinking twice, Elias fired the thrusters and lowered the Starling closer to the bridge. The ship rocked in the violent wind, but he held steady. "Hang on," he shouted into the wind. "I've got you." The princess looked at him with wide, startled eyes. Humans were rare in this system, and she had never seen one before. Most of the city's inhabitants had fled the bridge during the storm. Yet this stranger, small and fragile by comparison to her palace guards, seemed calm, focused, determined. Elias extended a grappling arm from the Starling, a device he always carried for emergencies. It shot forward with a precise thrum and hooked onto the edge of the bridge near her. "Grab it!" he called. She hesitated. Her training as a princess had never prepared her for this. She was meant to command from safety, to observe rather than act. But the bridge beneath her cracked, threatening to collapse at any moment. With no other choice, she lunged, grabbing the grappling hook. Elias hauled her in, feeling the strain of the storm pulling at both the ship and the bridge. The wind screamed, but he gritted his teeth and kept the engine steady. Finally, he pulled her through the hatch and into the safety of the Starling. Both of them gasped for breath. The warmth of the cabin contrasted sharply with the cold fury of the storm outside. The princess, still trembling, looked at him with a mixture of shock and awe. You saved me," she whispered. Her voice was soft, musical, alien, but the meaning was clear. Elias nodded, brushing rain from his jacket. "Guess I did." "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly, still catching her breath. I think so." "But you risked yourself for me. Why?" He shrugged, a little embarrassed. "Someone needed help. I do this a lot. It's just what humans do, humans." She had heard stories of them, brave, reckless, and often underestimated. But seeing one act so fearlessly, calmly in the face of danger, challenged everything she had believed. The storm outside was relentless, and the sky bridge was beginning to buckle even more violently. "We need to get out of here," Elias said. He piloted the Starling away from the bridge through sheets of rain and flashes of lightning. As they rose above the clouds, the princess finally relaxed, sinking into the seat. "You are different," she said quietly. "I have never seen anyone like you," Elias chuckled. "I get that a lot." For the next hour, they navigated through the planet's turbulent atmosphere. Elias used every trick he knew. Small thruster bursts to dodge lightning, careful maneuvers to avoid falling debris, and the ship's sensors to find the calmest path. The princess watched, fascinated as he worked. Every decision was quick, precise, and yet calm, almost like he could predict the storm itself. Eventually, they reached a safe zone outside the storm. The planet below stretched out in a mosaic of glowing cities and dark forests. The starling hovered in orbit, and the princess peered out at her homeworld, now seeing it from a human perspective, one of courage, quick thinking, and determination. You are extraordinary," she said softly. Elias laughed, shaking his head. "I'm just a pilot trying to do the right thing. Humans aren't magic, we just figure things out." She smiled faintly, though her eyes were still wide with amazement. No one here would have dared. Not even my guards? They would have hesitated, argued. And you just acted. Elias's smile faltered a little. Someone has to. Someone has to help when it matters most. That's how humans survive. The princess leaned back, studying him. I would like to know more about your people." He shrugged modestly. "Maybe I can tell you some stories later. Right now, we need to get you home safely." She nodded, finally trusting him completely. In that moment, amidst the stars and the fading storm, an unspoken understanding passed between them. Humans were small, fragile, and often underestimated, but their courage, ingenuity, and determination could move mountains, or save a life hanging on the edge of a collapsing bridge. The journey back to the palace was tense but uneventful. Elias carefully piloted the Starling through the planet's skies, avoiding lightning strikes and keeping the craft steady. The princess occasionally pointed out landmarks, explaining the city's layout while Elias listened and nodded, absorbing the alien architecture with quiet admiration. By the time they reached the palace gates, the first citizens were peeking out from their homes, murmuring in disbelief at the human pilot who had dared the storm. Guards arrived, but they hesitated, unsure of how to react to this human who had saved the princess. Finally, Elias landed the Starling on a secure platform. He helped the princess out, supporting her gently. She looked at him with gratitude and something deeper, curiosity, admiration, and perhaps the first spark of trust for a human she had ever felt. "Thank you," she said again, her voice firm this time. "You are remarkable." Elias waved it off. "I just did what anyone would do. But be careful up here. Those sky bridges aren't as safe as they look." The princess smiled, her hair still damp from the storm. "You have a strange way of seeing things, human." As he prepared to leave, he noticed the queen approaching, the elegant, imposing figure of Zetheria's ruler. Her eyes were sharp, measuring, curious. She looked at Elias with interest, not just at his daring act, but at what it represented. A human, untrained in Zetherian ways, capable of bravery and ingenuity far beyond what her people expected. "Captain Elias Kane," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "I owe you my daughter's life. You have my attention, and perhaps more than that." Elias nodded politely, unsure of what that meant. For now, he had done his duty. But somehow he felt that his life on Zetheria was only beginning. And so, the small human pilot who had risked everything for an alien princess became more than a rescuer. He became a mystery, a curiosity, and perhaps in time a bridge between two worlds. The stars outside twinkled, as if applauding the courage of one human who dared to act when it mattered most. The Starling glided silently above Zetheria's glowing landscapes, cutting through the remnants of the storm like a blade through silk. Captain Elias Kane adjusted the controls with practiced ease, his hands steady even as the wind and lightning tried to push him off course. Beside him, Princess Liara remained quiet, her eyes fixed on the alien horizon, wide with curiosity and awe. The palace was safe, but the princess knew she could not return immediately. Many of the city's lower districts had been damaged by the storm, and transportation routes were disrupted. The queen insisted she return only once it was safe, and Elias had volunteered, though reluctantly, to escort her to the capital city, where she could rest and recover. Elias wasn't used to being an escort. He usually delivered cargo, fixed ships, or explored abandoned systems. But this was different. He was responsible for the safety of someone far more important than any shipment. "Are you all right?" he asked gently, glancing at Liara. She nodded, still trembling slightly. I am. But the storm, it is unlike anything we have ever seen." Elias smiled faintly. "Weather isn't polite anywhere. You just have to figure out a way through it. Liara tilted her head, studying him. You humans are strange. You face danger without hesitation. You act when others would wait and argue. He shrugged. Some of us have to. Someone has to do what's right. She considered his words in silence, letting them settle. Then softly she said, I want to see your ways. How you think, how you survive. Humans, they are different. I want to understand that, Elias grinned. Well, I don't know if I can teach you all of human thinking in one flight, but I can try. The journey to the capital was not easy. Though the storm had moved on, it left behind broken infrastructure, landslides, and unstable cliffs. The Starling had to navigate narrow passes between jagged rock formations and fly over deep canyons, where a single misstep could mean disaster. At one point, a massive boulder tumbled down a mountainside, crashing into a valley below. Elias banked sharply, narrowly avoiding it, the ship tilting at a dangerous angle. Liara let out a soft gasp but did not panic. She had begun to trust him. You handle your ship like it's part of you, she said quietly, admiration in her voice. I guess it is, Elias replied. You learn to respect what you rely on. As they moved forward, they passed small towns and villages nestled among the hills. Many citizens had already begun clearing debris left by the storm, repairing bridges and roads. When they saw the Starling, a sleek human ship in their skies, whispers ran through the crowd. A human here, and rescuing their princess? Liara noticed the reactions and felt a flicker of pride. Humans were unknown here. They were considered outsiders, fragile and untested. Yet this one had faced the storm with courage and skill. His presence was changing perceptions already. By mid-flight, Elias spotted a dangerous section ahead, a canyon shrouded in swirling fog, concealing jagged rocks. Sensors indicated unstable wind currents. Many pilots would have avoided it entirely, choosing a longer route. But Elias studied the currents, adjusting the ship's angle to take advantage of upward drafts, and threaded the Starling through the canyon like a needle. Liara's eyes widened. How did you know that would work? She asked. Elias laughed softly. Experience. Humans are good at figuring things out on the fly. Sometimes you just have to trust your instincts. She studied him silently, realizing that human ingenuity was not only about courage, it was about observation, reasoning, and quick thinking. Aliens, with all their advanced technology, often relied on strict rules and protocols. Humans, she realized, adapted to circumstances rather than waiting for instructions. The canyon passed and the skies opened into a peaceful valley. Here the storm's destruction was less severe, and the landscape was stunning. Rivers reflecting the glowing city lights, forests of tall, luminous trees, and distant mountains that shimmered like crystals under the fading sun. It's beautiful, Liara whispered. Elias glanced out of the cockpit. Yeah, space can be beautiful too. And planets like this. They make you feel alive. She nodded thoughtfully. Your people. You must have many such worlds. You explore, you travel, and yet you survive. That is admirable. Elias felt a flush of pride. Humans were not seen as extraordinary in the galaxy. Often they were dismissed as primitive, fragile, and reckless. Yet here, in this alien world, his actions were beginning to change perceptions. Hours passed, and the Starling approached the capital city. Unlike the palace and lower districts, the capital gleamed with elegant towers, floating platforms, and bridges that connected every level. It was a marvel of alien engineering, but Elias noticed something most visitors did not. Several systems were inefficient, fragile, and prone to failure. You're staring at their city like it's a puzzle, Liara said, noticing his attention to detail. I guess it is, he admitted. I can see ways to make it stronger, safer. You wouldn't have survived the storm if the bridge had been different. She considered this, impressed by his perception. Humans were not just brave. They saw solutions where others only saw problems. As they descended toward the landing platform, a sudden alarm echoed from the city below. The storm had damaged one of the lower bridges connecting the central district. Residents were stranded and debris blocked several pathways. Can you help? Liara asked, her voice tinged with concern. Elias grinned. Let's see what we can do. Using the Starling's cargo arms and thrusters, Elias carefully lifted fallen beams and debris, creating a temporary path for the stranded citizens. The aliens watched in astonishment. No one had ever thought to use a ship like a crane, let alone with such precision. When the last citizen was safely escorted across the gap, applause erupted. Liara's eyes sparkled with admiration. You helped them all, without waiting for instructions. Humans truly are remarkable. Elias shrugged modestly. Just doing what needs to be done. Finally, they landed on the platform nearest the royal palace. The Starling's engines hummed softly as the storm faded entirely, leaving the city bathed in the warm glow of sunset. Liara stepped out first, scanning the city and the people who had begun to gather. Her gaze lingered on Elias as he helped her down. "You have done more than rescue me," she said softly. "You have shown my people something they have never seen. Courage, ingenuity, humanity," he chuckled. "Don't make me sound like a hero. I'm just me," she smiled, a quiet understanding passing between them. "You are more than that. You are extraordinary." As they walked toward the palace gates, Elias realized this journey was far from over. His actions had already left an impression, and he had a sense that the Queen would be very interested in meeting the human who had changed everything. The palace doors opened, revealing Queen Vylara, regal and imposing, yet with a hint of curiosity in her eyes. She studied Elias carefully, noting his calm demeanor, practical movements, and quiet confidence. "Captain Elias Kane," she said, her voice steady and commanding. "You have delivered my daughter safely through danger. That is no small feat. I have heard much about humans, but never have I seen one act with such skill and courage." Elias bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what seemed right." The Queen's gaze softened as she looked at Liara, then back at Elias. "You may have saved my daughter, but I sense you have done more. You have shown qualities we have not fully understood in humans. Perhaps there is more to learn from you." Elias nodded, unsure what the Queen meant, but feeling a mixture of pride and apprehension. As the princess led him through the palace halls, showing him the rooms and courtyards damaged by the storm, Elias began to realize that his human way of thinking, quick, practical, and courageous, was something these aliens had rarely encountered, and already it was making a difference. By the time they reached Liara's chambers, the sun had set, and the city's lights glimmered like stars below. She turned to him, her expression serious. "You are different from anyone I have ever met," she said quietly, "and I want to understand that. I want my people to see it too." Elias smiled. "Well, maybe that's what humans are good for, seeing problems, fixing them, helping others, and surviving along the way." For a moment, the storm and danger of earlier seemed like a distant memory. But Elias knew that this journey, the rescue, the flight, the awe of the city, was only the beginning. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, but he was about to prove that courage, ingenuity, and simple determination could change worlds. The Palace of Zytheria was a marvel of shimmering towers, floating platforms, and vast halls filled with soft, glowing light. Captain Elias Kane walked through the corridors beside Princess Liara, trying to absorb every detail without appearing intrusive. Despite the grandeur, his mind was focused on the tasks at hand, ensuring the princess was safe, navigating the customs of this alien society, and staying true to his own principles. Liara led him to a large chamber overlooking the city, its transparent walls showing the bustling capital below. Citizens moved like glowing streams, and airships floated between towers. Elias had seen many alien cities in his travels, but Zytheria's capital was something extraordinary. Yet he noticed subtle flaws, small gaps in infrastructure, inefficiencies in transport systems, and emergency systems that could fail under stress. "You notice everything," Liara said softly. "You see things we do not, Captain." How can you do that?" Elias smiled faintly. "We humans survive by noticing things, by seeing problems before they become disasters. It's not magic, it's paying attention, thinking quickly, and acting." She considered this, clearly impressed. "Your people. You must be different from others here. Brave, resourceful, able to act when most would hesitate." "I guess we are," he admitted. "But anyone can learn it. You just have to care enough to do the right thing." Their conversation was interrupted by the soft chiming of palace doors opening. The guard stepped aside and Queen Vylara entered the chamber. She was regal and imposing, her flowing robes catching the ambient light, yet her eyes, sharp and intelligent, betrayed curiosity directed at Elias. "Captain Elias Kane," she said, her voice calm and authoritative. You have delivered my daughter safely through a storm that could have destroyed this entire district. That is no small feat. I have heard stories of humans, but never have I seen one act with such precision and courage. Elias bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, I only did what seemed right. Anyone would have acted the same way if they could. The Queen's gaze lingered on him. She had seen countless skilled warriors, diplomats and engineers from across the galaxy, yet none had approached the challenges of her world with the combination of calmness, bravery, and ingenuity that Elias had shown. You underestimate yourself, she said. Humans are rare in our systems. Many dismiss them as fragile, impulsive, or reckless. And yet you display qualities our people have not encountered. I am intrigued. Elias felt a mixture of pride and caution. The Queen's words were both a compliment and a warning. He had no desire to offend anyone, yet he was a human accustomed to speaking plainly. I am honored, Your Majesty, he replied, but I am just a pilot trying to help where I can. Queen Vylara studied him a moment longer, then turned her gaze to Liara. You spoke highly of him, she said. Perhaps he is exactly the kind of person we need in Zytheria, not just for your safety, but for the safety of our citizens. Humans see solutions where others see problems. They act when others hesitate, Liara nodded. He saved my life, and I have learned from him already. His way of thinking, his courage, it is extraordinary. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but in calculation. Captain Kane, I have a proposition for you. You will remain in Zytheria, at least for the foreseeable future, not as a guest, but as an advisor and a guardian. Your knowledge, perspective, and unique abilities are needed here. Elias blinked. Remain here? Your Majesty, I have duties elsewhere. I have people who rely on me, routes to run, cargo to deliver. I understand, the Queen interrupted gently but firmly. But consider this. One human mind can accomplish more than many of our best-trained officials. You have demonstrated this. I offer you a chance to make a difference, not just for one person, but for an entire civilization. Liara stepped closer. Captain Kane, please. Humans think differently. You see what others cannot. You act when others hesitate. If you leave now, Zytheria would lose that advantage. We need you here. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. He had traveled the galaxy, helped countless people, and faced many dangers. Yet this request was different. It was not a mission for pay or survival. It was a call to influence an entire world, to bring human ingenuity to a society that had never encountered it. Your Majesty, he said finally, I appreciate the offer, but I am not sure I belong here. Humans are, well, we are different. You may not understand us fully. Queen Vylara smiled faintly. That is exactly why you are needed. Differences bring solutions. Predictable thinking leaves gaps. I see in you a mind that can help us avoid disaster, strengthen our cities, and guide our people through challenges we cannot yet foresee. Liara placed a hand on his arm. Captain Kane, your courage has already changed my world. Stay a little longer. Teach us, help us, and perhaps learn from us as well. Elias looked at the princess, then at the Queen, and realized that leaving was not as simple as it had seemed. He had been praised for bravery, yet he had also been given a responsibility he had never sought, a responsibility to shape an alien civilization. I will consider it, he said slowly. But you must understand I cannot promise forever. I have responsibilities elsewhere. Queen Vylara nodded. I ask only that you remain long enough to see the difference you can make. You have already proven yourself. Stay and Zytheria will thrive because of it. The decision weighed heavily on him. Humans valued freedom, yet he had always acted for the greater good. Staying meant leaving his familiar life behind, but it also meant doing something extraordinary, something that could change how humans were seen across the galaxy. I will stay, he said finally, for now to help and to learn. The Queen's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Excellent. Then let us begin. Over the following days, Elias was introduced to Zytheria's Council of Advisors, engineers, and city planners. Many were skeptical at first. They had seen humans before, curious, reckless, and often unpredictable. But Elias's calm demeanor, practical solutions, and willingness to act impressed them all. One of the first challenges he faced was a damaged transportation system linking the upper and lower districts. Aliens had been debating repairs for weeks, but progress was slow. Elias examined the system, identified weak points and proposed a temporary solution using a combination of human engineering techniques and alien materials. Why did no one think of this? One engineer asked, astonished. Elias smiled. Sometimes you just have to look at the problem differently. You know the rules, I just try to find the gaps in them. Word spread quickly through the capital. The human pilot was not just brave, he was clever, adaptable, and able to solve problems that had stumped the best minds of Zytheria. Citizens began to watch him with curiosity and admiration. Even minor successes like rerouting energy flows or stabilizing weakened bridges earned him respect. Liara remained at his side, observing, learning, and occasionally offering advice. She marveled at his ability to stay calm under pressure, to improvise, and to see possibilities where others saw obstacles. She realized that humans were not only courageous, they were uniquely resourceful. One evening, as the city lights shimmered below the palace, Liara spoke quietly to Elias. You have changed my world already. Citizens, engineers, even the council, they see humans differently because of you. Elias shook his head. I'm just doing what I can. Humans, we survive by figuring things out. That's all. You don't have to call it extraordinary. She smiled softly. To us, it is extraordinary. Perhaps that is why my mother insists you stay. Not just to help her or me, but to help all of Zytheria. Elias looked out over the city, realizing the truth in her words. He had acted to save one life, but in doing so, he had begun to change the perception of an entire civilization. Humans were often underestimated, but courage, ingenuity, and determination could leave an impression no one would forget. As night fell and the twin moons rose over the capital, the Queen summoned him once more. In the private council chamber, she spoke with quiet authority. Captain Kane, I have seen your methods. I have seen your courage. Zytheria will benefit greatly from your continued presence. I am officially requesting you remain here, not merely as a guest but as an advisor to my people. You will have the freedom to act, to teach, and to influence our decisions. Will you accept this responsibility? Elias paused, considering the weight of her words. Humans valued freedom, but they also valued doing what was right. He had been offered a chance to make a difference far beyond what he had imagined. I accept, he said finally. I will stay, to help and to learn. The Queen's expression softened and she nodded. Then let us begin a new chapter, Captain Kane. Together, we will see what humans and Zytherians can accomplish when courage meets wisdom. Elias left the chamber feeling a mixture of pride, responsibility, and anticipation. He had arrived as a simple pilot, tasked only with rescuing a princess. Now he was part of something far greater, a chance to show the galaxy what humans could achieve when they acted with courage, intelligence, and determination. The morning sun rose over the capital of Zytheria, spilling soft light across the towering spires and floating platforms. Captain Elias Kane stood on a balcony overlooking the city, his eyes scanning the streets below. The city was alive with movement, citizens rebuilding after the storm, airships gliding between towers, and engineers inspecting bridges and buildings for damage. Elias had been in Zytheria for several days now, officially accepted as an advisor at the Queen's request. He was still adjusting to the palace life, the alien etiquette, and the constant curiosity of Zytherians who wanted to learn from him. But he had quickly realized that his human perspective, quick thinking, practical solutions, and improvisation was exactly what this civilization needed. Princess Liara approached, carrying a datapad with notes and schematics. Good morning, Captain, she said. The council has scheduled a meeting to discuss city infrastructure. They are skeptical about your proposals, but they are willing to listen. Elias smiled faintly. Skepticism is healthy. It means they care about their city. Let's show them what humans can do. They entered the council chamber, a grand room with high ceilings and transparent walls overlooking the glowing streets. The council members, a mix of engineers, diplomats, and advisors, greeted him with polite curiosity. Many had heard rumors of the human who had saved the princess and acted with courage, but few had witnessed his methods firsthand. Captain Kane, began Chief Engineer Vaylor, an older Zytherian with sharp eyes. Your ideas are unusual. Rebuilding the sky bridge using a mobile support system, rerouting energy flows manually, introducing redundancy and structural controls. It is unorthodox. Why should we trust it? Elias leaned forward, speaking with calm confidence. Because it works. Humans survive by finding solutions when standard methods fail. I am not here to replace your knowledge. I am here to add a perspective you may not have considered. The council murmured among themselves. Some were intrigued, others skeptical. Elias was used to doubt. It followed humans everywhere, but he welcomed it. Doubt meant discussion, and discussion meant action. Their first project was the city's main transportation network, heavily damaged by the storm. Scytherian engineers had debated repairs for weeks without agreement. Elias walked them through the system, pointing out inefficiencies and suggesting ways to stabilize the network temporarily while permanent repairs were designed. Why not reinforce the platforms here? He asked, pointing to a critical junction. You have strong materials, but your support beams are fixed. Introduce adjustable braces like humans do with scaffolding, and you can redistribute the load if there's another storm. Vaylor frowned. Adjustable braces? We do not use such methods. Our designs rely on permanent stability. That's the problem, Elias replied gently. Permanent stability can fail if conditions change. Temporary adaptation saves lives. After several hours of discussion, testing, and careful calculation, the council reluctantly agreed to implement his suggestions. They were impressed when the system stabilized quickly and efficiently, far faster than their standard methods would have allowed. Whispers of admiration spread through the room. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but effective. Over the next few days, Elias continued his work. He repaired damaged bridges using temporary support systems, rerouted energy flows to stabilize the city during peak hours, and even introduced new methods for monitoring infrastructure using drones he had brought in from his ship. Each solution combined human creativity with alien technology, producing results no Zitherian alone could have achieved. Liara watched him closely during these days, fascinated. Your methods. They are not just clever, she said one evening as they reviewed the day's progress. They are live, adaptive. Humans think differently. You see opportunities where we see obstacles, Elias smiled. We have to. The galaxy doesn't wait for you to be ready. You adapt or you fail. Beyond engineering, Elias began interacting with other sectors of the city. Farmers, transport operators, and even diplomats sought his advice. He introduced simple human practices, organization of resources, prioritization of urgent tasks, and basic risk management. These ideas were alien to Zytherians, whose culture often relied on tradition and hierarchy rather than improvisation. Yet the results were undeniable. Productivity increased, infrastructure stabilized, and citizens grew more confident in their leadership. Not everyone was immediately convinced. Some council members whispered doubts about relying on a human, but Elias faced their skepticism with quiet persistence. He did not argue, he acted. Results spoke louder than words, and soon those who doubted him began to see his value. One afternoon, as Elias inspected a newly stabilized bridge, an envoy from a neighboring city arrived. They had heard rumors of the human pilot transforming the capital systems, and wanted to observe for themselves. You are Captain Elias Kane? The envoy asked, eyes wide with curiosity. We have heard incredible things about what you have done here. I try to help where I can, Elias replied modestly. It's not just me, this city has brilliant engineers. I just offer a human perspective. The envoy nodded, impressed. Your methods. They are unlike anything we have seen. Perhaps humans are more capable than we believed. Word of Elias's success spread rapidly. Citizens began to leave small gifts and messages of thanks outside his quarters. Children painted drawings of him saving Princess Liara from the storm. Even hardened council members who had doubted him could not deny the human's impact. But Elias knew that his work was far from complete. The capital's systems were stabilized, but the storm had revealed deeper vulnerabilities, weaknesses that could threaten the entire city if left unchecked. He began designing long-term improvements, redundant power systems, adaptive bridge supports, and emergency protocols that combined human problem-solving with Zytherian technology. Liara remained his constant companion, assisting with translations, explanations, and insight into Zytherian culture. She admired his humility. Despite his growing fame and influence, he never acted superior. He treated every citizen, engineer, and council member with respect, earning trust quickly. One evening, as the twin moons of Zetheria rose over the city, Liara spoke to him quietly. "Captain Kane, you have changed how we see humans. Not just in courage, but in thought. Our people respect you, listen to you, and follow your guidance." "You are extraordinary," Elias shook his head. "I'm just doing what comes naturally. Humans adapt. We solve problems. We survive. You can call it extraordinary if you like, but it's just human," she smiled softly. "Perhaps humans are exactly what the galaxy needs. Courage, ingenuity, and adaptability. You embody all of it." Meanwhile, Queen Velara observed Elias from a distance. She had called a private council meeting to discuss the humans' influence. Some advisors worried that relying on him too much could make the city dependent on one individual. Others argued that humans had proven themselves indispensable. "You see what I mean, Velara?" one advisor whispered. "He is not just brave, he is shaping the entire capital. If we follow his methods, our civilization may change in ways we do not control." The queen smiled faintly. "Yes, I see. But that is exactly why we need him. Humans think differently. They see possibilities where we see only rules. That perspective, it can save us, guide us, and make our cities stronger." Over the following weeks, Elias continued building trust, solving problems, and introducing small innovations that had far-reaching consequences. Bridges were strengthened, energy systems optimized, and citizen life improved in ways that Zetherians had never imagined. Even rival cities began sending envoys to learn from him. Some were skeptical, but they could not ignore the results. The human pilot who had saved a princess had become a symbol of practical intelligence and courage. One evening, Liara approached him on the palace balcony. "Captain Kane, do you see what you have done? You have not only helped our city, but you have also changed how we think. Humans are now respected." Elias looked out over the glowing city, a sense of quiet pride filling him. "I didn't do it for respect," he said. "I did it to help, but yes, humans are often underestimated. Maybe this will show the galaxy what we can do." Liara smiled, her eyes shining with admiration. "It will, and it will not stop here. You are only beginning. With your guidance, Zetheria can become stronger than ever before." Elias nodded. He had come to Zetheria as a simple pilot rescuing a princess. Now he was a bridge between worlds, a human whose courage, ingenuity, and adaptability were shaping the future of an entire civilization. And as he watched the city lights reflect in the calm rivers below, he realized that humans, though underestimated across the galaxy, had the power to inspire, protect, and lead in ways no one had expected. The adventure was far from over. Challenges remained, skeptics lingered, and new opportunities awaited. But for the first time, Elias Kane understood the true value of what it meant to be human in a galaxy that was just beginning to notice. The morning sun rose over Zetheria's capital, casting long golden beams across the floating platforms and shimmering towers. Captain Elias Kane stood on the balcony of the palace, surveying the city he had helped stabilize. Bridges were reinforced, energy grids optimized, and citizens moved through the streets with a sense of confidence he had not seen before. The storm that had once threatened to destroy the city now seemed like a distant memory, a shadow eclipsed by progress. Princess Liara approached, her expression bright with excitement. "Captain Kane, come see. The council has approved your proposal for the new emergency systems. They want you to oversee the implementation personally." Elias smiled faintly. "I suppose humans are good at emergencies, so it makes sense." Liara laughed softly. "You underestimate yourself, but yes, humans do think differently. You see solutions where we see problems." Elias followed her through the palace corridors to the council chamber. The room was bustling with activity, filled with engineers, council members, and citizens eager to learn from him. The air buzzed with anticipation and curiosity. Humans were rare here, and their ideas were still considered extraordinary. Chief Engineer Valor approached him with a respectful nod. "Captain Kane, your proposals for redundant power systems and adaptive bridges are ready. If we implement them as you suggested, the city will be safer and more efficient than ever before." Elias nodded. "Good. But remember, the goal isn't just to build stronger structures, it's to create a system that adapts to change. Zetheria will face storms again, and when it does, this city must survive." He spent the next several hours walking through the city, overseeing the construction of adaptive bridges, energy rerouting systems, and emergency shelters. His methods were unorthodox, using mobile support units, drones for monitoring, and temporary reinforcement structures. But the results were undeniable. Where council members had predicted months of delays, progress moved quickly and efficiently. Citizens began to take notice. Children ran alongside the construction crews, mimicking the movements of the human captain. Traders paused their work to watch him coordinate teams, and even rival city envoys observed in awe as Etheria's capital transformed before their eyes. Liara stayed by his side, offering insight, translating technical details for the council, and marveling at how effortlessly he solved complex problems. "Captain Kane," she said as they inspected a newly reinforced bridge, "you have not just improved the city. You have changed how our people think. They respect humans now not just for courage but for intelligence and ingenuity." Elias shook his head. "I'm just doing what humans do naturally. Observe, adapt, and act. That's how we survive. You can call it ingenuity if you like, but it's just human." The Queen summoned Elias to her chambers later that afternoon. He entered to find her seated beside Liara, her eyes calm yet calculating. "You have exceeded all expectations," she said. "Cytheria is stronger, safer, and more resilient because of your guidance. But your influence goes beyond engineering. It has inspired our citizens and changed our perspective on humans." Elias bowed. "I am honored, Your Majesty. I only did what I could to help." The Queen's gaze softened. "That may be so. But now I ask more of you. Will you stay and serve as Cytheria's ambassador of human wisdom? Your role would be to advise, guide, and teach, not just for the capital but for the entire planet. Humans see opportunities and solutions that others cannot. Your perspective can shape a new era for Cytheria." Elias paused, considering the weight of her words. His life had begun as a simple pilot, traveling between systems for cargo and exploration. Yet now he was being asked to guide an entire civilization, to show them the human way of thinking, and to create a lasting impact. Except, he said finally, "I will stay to help and to learn, but I also hope to maintain a connection with my people in human space." The Queen nodded. "You shall have that freedom. But your presence here is invaluable. Together we will build a stronger, wiser Cytheria." Over the following weeks, Elias began implementing long-term improvements across the city and its surrounding regions. He worked with engineers to design adaptive power grids that could handle extreme weather, transport systems that self-corrected, and emergency shelters that could be deployed anywhere within hours. His methods were simple in principle: observe, adapt, act, but revolutionary in execution. Rival cities sent envoys to learn from him, and soon, knowledge of human ingenuity began spreading across the planet. Some skeptics still remained, but even they could not deny the efficiency and effectiveness of his methods. Citizens began to approach him directly, asking questions, offering ideas, and volunteering to help implement solutions. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Liara led Elias to a balcony overlooking the capital. The streets below shimmered with light, the bridges hummed with stability, and the citizens moved with renewed confidence. "Look at them," she said softly. "Your methods, your courage, and your ingenuity. You have changed not just our city, but our people. Humans are no longer strangers here. You have shown them what your species is capable of." Elias watched the bustling city, feeling a sense of quiet pride. Humans were often underestimated across the galaxy. Fragile, reckless, impulsive. That was how most civilizations saw them. Yet here, he had proven that courage, adaptability, and practical thinking could inspire, protect, and guide. "Humans survive," he said simply. "We see problems, we find solutions, and we act. That's all." Liara smiled, placing her hand gently on his arm. "Perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs. Courage, intelligence, and adaptability. You embody all of it." Word of his accomplishments soon reached neighboring systems. Aliens who had once dismissed humans now approached with curiosity and respect. Trade routes expanded, alliances formed, and Cytheria became a hub of innovation and cooperation. Humans, once underestimated, were finally seen as a force capable of shaping the galaxy, not through conquest, but through courage, ingenuity, and problem-solving. Elias continued his work tirelessly. He traveled across Cytheria, teaching engineers, council members, and citizens how to think like humans, to adapt quickly, to improvise, and to act decisively in moments of uncertainty. He encouraged collaboration, showing that combining human creativity with alien technology produced solutions far beyond what either could achieve alone. One day, as he walked with Liara through the city, she said quietly, "Captain Kane, do you realize what you have done? You have not just saved lives, you have created a new era. Humans will be remembered here for centuries." Elias smiled. "I didn't do it for recognition. I did it to help, but yes, perhaps this will show the galaxy what humans are capable of." Liara's eyes shone with admiration. "And it will. You are only the beginning. Others will follow your example, and humans will be respected, not feared or underestimated." The Queen called a public ceremony to honor his contributions. Citizens lined the streets, cheering as Elias and Liara walked through the capital. The Queen presented him with a ceremonial medallion, symbolizing his role as ambassador of human wisdom. "You have shown us courage, ingenuity, and the human way of thinking," she said. "Your presence has transformed Zetheria, and your influence will guide us into a new era. May your example inspire humans and Zetherians alike." Elias accepted the honor humbly, looking out at the crowd. Children waved, adults smiled, and even the skeptics nodded in respect. In that moment, he realized the true impact of human courage and ingenuity. It was not just about strength or technology. It was about the ability to see problems, act decisively, and inspire others. As the ceremony ended, Elias returned to the palace with Liara. "The city is safer, stronger, and smarter," she said. "But more importantly, your presence has changed how we see humans." That is extraordinary." Elias shook his head. "I'm just a pilot who did what he could. Humans survive by acting when it matters, by thinking creatively, and by helping others. That's all." Liara smiled softly. "Perhaps that is enough to change the galaxy." From that day forward, Captain Elias Kane remained in Zetheria, guiding the capital, advising the council, and teaching the citizens the human way. Bridges were stronger, power grids resilient, and emergency systems reliable. The city thrived, not because of technology alone, but because humans brought courage, creativity, and practical wisdom to every challenge. Elias had come to Zetheria as a simple pilot, tasked with rescuing a princess. He stayed to build a new era, proving to the galaxy that humans, though often underestimated, could inspire, protect, and transform civilizations through courage, intelligence, and ingenuity. And as he looked out over the glowing city, with Princess Liara by his side, he understood the truth he had always known. Humans were remarkable, not because of strength or numbers, but because of their spirit. Their ability to face the unknown, adapt, and act could change worlds. Zetheria had learned that lesson, and the galaxy was beginning to notice. The adventure of one human had become the beginning of a legacy, one that would echo across the stars for generations to come.